Across the Infinite Nebula where forgotten civilizations whisper their last secrets. The spacecraft Aurora's veil drifted silently through the void, its hull glowing faintly from the distant starlight. Captain Elara Myles sat in the cockpit, staring at the swirling colors ahead. The nebula stretched endlessly, a tapestry of violet, blue, and gold, shimmering as if alive. Every star within it hummed a song too soft for human ears, yet something deep in her chest resonated with it. "This is it," whispered Commander Taro Lin, standing behind her. His voice trembled with awe. "The Infinite Nebula, the one they said no one would ever reach." Elara's fingers hovered over the control panel. "We're not just reaching it, Taro. We're about to uncover what lies hidden inside. Every lost civilization, every secret the galaxy has forgotten, it's all waiting for us." The ship's sensors flickered as they entered the outer rim of the nebula. Strange readings appeared, signals that were not made by any technology they had encountered. A mixture of harmonic pulses, like the echo of voices long gone. "It's communicating," murmured Dr. Kale Rios, the ship's xenolinguist. "Not in a language we know. But I can feel its meaning. It's sad. Urgent. It's calling for someone to listen." Suddenly, a holographic map blinked to life, showing ancient star systems. Faded markings glowed in patterns that resembled constellations, yet each was unfamiliar. "These are civilizations," Kale continued. "Each one vanished without a trace. Yet their stories, their memories linger here, in the nebula itself." Elara leaned closer to the screen, her heart pounding. "Then we're not just explorers. We're witnesses to history, and to the end of it." As the Aurora's veil plunged deeper, the nebula seemed to shift. Shadows of colossal structures appeared in the haze. Ruined cities floating on clouds of cosmic dust, monuments taller than mountains, their surfaces etched with alien symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. Taro swallowed hard. "No civilization we've ever seen. All of this, gone. Just whispers in the void." A sudden tremor shook the ship. Alarms blared as the nebula's energy surged. "It's alive," Kale said, awe in his voice. "Not in the way we think life exists. But alive, yes. And it knows we're here." Elara gripped the controls. "Then we have to be careful. If it can sense us, maybe it can also judge us." The nebula stretched on endlessly, a sea of forgotten histories, waiting for someone to hear the whispers before they faded forever. And somewhere within it, the first secret stirred. Ready to speak, the Aurora's veil drifted closer to the shadow of a massive, ruined structure. From a distance, it looked like a crystalline city, each tower stretching like a frozen song into the nebula's colorful mist. The ship's hull creaked softly as it adjusted its position, caught in the faint currents of cosmic energy that rippled through the nebula. "Scans are unusual," Kale said, eyes glued to the display. "These buildings, they are transmitting memories. Not signals or technology, memories, like the essence of the civilization itself. And it's fragmented. We can piece it together if we focus." Elara nodded slowly. "Then start piecing. We're here to witness, not to disturb. Let's hear their story." Kale activated the neural link interface, a device that allowed him to interpret nonverbal signals directly into human perception. A soft hum filled the cockpit as a flood of images, feelings, and sounds washed over him. He gasped, staggering back slightly. They were scholars," Kale whispered. "A civilization devoted to preserving knowledge, even as everything else around them fell apart. Their cities were libraries, their monuments like books in the sky. But they knew the end was coming. They recorded everything, every thought, every invention, every sorrow, and left it here in the nebula, as if hoping someone would find it." Taro leaned forward. Can you show us?" Kale closed his eyes, letting the images flow into the ship's visualization system. The cockpit transformed into a projection of the lost city. Towering crystalline halls stretched into the fog, walls lined with glowing glyphs and holographic texts. The air shimmered with the echo of voices, soft, sorrowful, whispering secrets in a language that was felt more than heard. Elara stepped closer, her hand brushing against one of the projections. She felt a pang of memory that was not hers. Images of children playing under luminous skies, scholars debating complex ideas, the slow realization of an unstoppable collapse. They didn't survive," she said quietly. "But their knowledge, their thoughts, it's all still here. They wanted someone to know they existed." Suddenly, A pulse of energy radiated through the nebula. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring. Red light bathed the cockpit. "Unknown force detected," shouted the navigation AI. "The nebula is reacting." Kale's eyes widened. "It's not just memories. The nebula, it's protecting them. It doesn't want us to take their secrets lightly." Elara gritted her teeth. "Then we don't take. We listen. We witness. Nothing more." The pulse passed, leaving the ship trembling. Yet in its wake, a new clarity emerged. The whispers became clearer, forming words that Kale could interpret. "Do not forget us. Do not exploit what we leave. Listen, remember, and carry our essence forward." Taro exhaled, a mixture of fear and reverence in his voice. "They trusted us, even as they disappeared. That's incredible." Elara looked out at the glowing city, a wave of determination rising within her. "Then we'll honor that trust. We'll uncover their stories, and we'll carry them across the stars. But we need to proceed carefully. If the nebula tests us, we must pass, not for us, but for them." As the ship moved deeper into the crystalline ruins, the first civilization's whispers began to weave a tapestry of knowledge, emotion, and history, a haunting reminder of the brilliance and fragility of those long gone. Somewhere beyond, deeper in the nebula, another secret waited, and its whisper was darker, filled with both warning and curiosity. The Aurora's veil moved cautiously through the crystalline city, the ghostly projections of the lost civilization flickering around them like echoes in a vast hall of mirrors. Every step, or rather, every drift of the ship, seemed to stir the nebula itself. The colors shifted, darkening, twisting as if testing their resolve. "Elara, I'm detecting fluctuations in the energy field," Taro said. "It's like the nebula is alive and watching us. Any sudden move might trigger something." Kale's hands danced over his console, translating the hum of the nebula into understandable signals. "It's assessing us. I can feel it probing our thoughts, our intentions. It wants to know if we are worthy of its knowledge." Elara's grip on the controls tightened. "Then we show respect, not curiosity. Listen, observe, but do not interfere." As they approached the central tower of the ruined city, shadows began to gather in the mist outside the ship. They were not solid, not entirely light, but more like memories given form, ghosts of the civilization's fears, regrets, and unfinished struggles. Kale's voice trembled. These are not just warnings. They are trials. The nebula manifests the last echoes of the people who lived here. If we fail, their despair could overwhelm us." A shadow surged against the ship's hull, folding space like smoke. Alarms shrieked. "Hull integrity at 60%, the AI reported. Elara maneuvered the ship with precision. "Focus on navigation. Taro, stabilize our trajectory. Kale, keep translating." The shadows spoke, not in words, but in emotions. Waves of sorrow, anger, regret, and longing rolled over the crew. Memories of failures and lost opportunities struck their minds with uncanny clarity, as if the nebula knew them personally. Taro clenched his jaw. "It's my family, the life I could have had, my regrets, they are here. How do I get through this?" Kale touched his temple, voice soft but steady. "You acknowledge it. Don't fight. Accept it as part of the story, not as a burden. The nebula respects understanding, not denial." Elara's eyes met theirs both, commanding yet calm. "We move forward together. Fear is natural, but we cannot let it define us. Remember why we are here." Slowly, as if responding to their composure, the shadows began to disperse. The swirling energy around the ship stabilized. The colors of the nebula softened into golden hues, revealing the central monument, a tower of translucent crystal, inscribed with patterns that glowed like veins of light. Kale translated the inscriptions aloud. "Those who bear witness with respect shall inherit our knowledge. Those who seek power will be consumed by it." Elara exhaled, the tension in her body easing. "We came to listen. To understand. Not to take. And we will honor that promise." The central monument pulsed gently, as if acknowledging their resolve. Inside the holographic projections, the first complete story emerged, a record of a civilization that had once spanned hundreds of worlds, dedicated to peace, knowledge, and memory. Their final act had been to merge their consciousness into the nebula itself, leaving only whispers behind. Taro stared at the projections, awe in his eyes. It's beautiful. And tragic. They gave everything, even themselves. Elara placed a hand on the console. We'll make sure their story is never forgotten. But this is only the beginning. The nebula is vast, and not all civilizations within it were so serene. Outside, the mist of the nebula swirled darker, hinting at secrets more perilous, more urgent, and more desperate than the first. Somewhere beyond the glowing city, the next whisper waited, ready to test them again. The Aurora's veil glided beyond the first crystalline city, leaving behind the golden glow of the scholar's memories. The nebula thickened, colors deepening into violet and indigo, like a storm frozen in time. Something about this section felt different. Heavier. The air, or what passed for it, seemed charged with unease. Elara, sensors are picking up entire worlds here, Taro said, his voice low. But their readings, no life. Nothing but ruins and strange energy signatures. Kale's eyes scanned the neural interface. These civilizations, they didn't fade gently. They disappeared abruptly. Their memories are fragmented, like echoes trapped in broken mirrors. Some are screaming still, in a way. Elara frowned. Screaming. Kale nodded. Not pain exactly. Desperation. Fear. Regret. And warning. Whatever happened to them, the nebula remembers. The ship's lights flickered as a ripple of energy passed through the hull. Outside, the remains of massive structures floated in suspended decay. Cities collapsed mid-construction, fleets frozen in orbit, people caught in the midst of daily life, all suspended like ghosts. Taro swallowed. It's like time stopped for them. Or, they were erased, Kale said, voice trembling. Some external force, maybe a war, maybe a catastrophe, but the nebula absorbed what was left. These are the final moments of worlds that never fully ended. A sudden pulse of light engulfed the ship. The AI shrieked. Unknown energy surge detected. Hull stability critical. Elara's hands flew over the controls. Brace yourselves. Shields up, now. The light passed, revealing a shadow moving through the debris. It wasn't like the shadows from before, it was solid, almost intelligent. Eyes, or what seemed like eyes, glowed in its misty form. It drifted toward the ship, scanning them. Kale gasped. This is one of them, one of the vanished ones. But it's different. They are not memories. They are fragments of consciousness, trapped, wondering, trying to communicate. Elara held her breath. Can it understand us? Kale initiated the interface, connecting with the fragment. Images, emotions, and half-formed words flooded his mind. The vanished one had been a leader, desperate to protect its people. We failed. The darkness came from within. Beware, do not repeat. Taro shuddered. From within? They destroyed themselves. Kale nodded grimly. It seems there was betrayal, conflict, something that led to total annihilation. Their warning is clear. They want us to understand the cost of forgetting history. Elara's jaw tightened. We need to record everything. Every detail. If this nebula carries the lessons of civilizations lost, we cannot ignore them. The vanished one pulsed, sending a shock of memory through the ship. Images of betrayal, power struggles, and catastrophic decisions overwhelmed the crew for a moment, but they endured. Finally, the fragment spoke one last warning, a whisper that Kale translated. Carry our memories. Learn from our mistakes. The nebula is alive, but it is patient. We were not. As the fragment faded into the mist, the nebula seemed to calm, the stormy purples softening into muted blues. Elara exhaled. We've seen what happens when civilizations fall from greed, fear, and division. The Infinite Nebula preserves the truth, even when the universe forgets. Taro stared into the void. And yet, some things are still out there. Waiting. Elara nodded. Yes. The deeper we go, the darker and more urgent the whispers will become. But we must continue. Every story we witness strengthens the memory of what once was, and perhaps, what could still be saved. With that, the Aurora's veil sailed deeper into the nebula, into the unknown reaches where the next civilization's whispers, more desperate, more perilous, awaited their arrival. The nebula's colors darkened further as the Aurora's veil approached a dense cluster of floating ruins. Here, the air, or the nebula's equivalent, felt heavy with tension, as if the very space was warning them to turn back. Elara, readings are off the charts, Taro said uneasily. This isn't just abandoned cities. There's energy here, unnatural. Dangerous. Kale's brow furrowed as he connected to the ship's interface. This civilization, they were seekers of ultimate knowledge. They tried to manipulate the very fabric of existence. Their technology, their minds, even their memories, they were merging with the nebula itself. Elara's eyes narrowed. Then we need to observe, not interfere. Let's find out what they left behind, and what we must never touch. As the ship floated among shattered towers of blackened crystal, holographic projections flickered to life. Kale gasped. Their experiments, they reached beyond reality. They tried to control time, matter, life itself. But it destroyed them. Entire worlds, gone. And yet, the knowledge remains. Taro shivered. Knowledge at what cost? They are dead, but their secrets linger. Could it harm us? Kale nodded slowly. Possibly. The nebula retains both memory and intent. Some of it is stable, but the dangerous parts, the forbidden knowledge, is restless. It could consume anyone who tries to use it. A sudden pulse of energy rippled across the ship. Lights flickered, and for a brief moment, the projections became tangible. Shapes of beings, their faces twisted in fear and rage. The voice of the civilization, or what remained, echoed through the ship. Do not repeat our mistake. Power is a poison. Curiosity without respect is death. Leave what should not be taken. Elara's hands gripped the console. We are here to learn, not to repeat. We'll carry their memory forward, but we won't touch their power. Kale's fingers flew over the neural interface, recording and translating the visions. They were brilliant and reckless. Their society fell because they tried to surpass nature itself. Their warnings are clear. And yet, there's something else. They left instructions. A guide, a lesson embedded in the nebula for those who listen without greed. Taro exhaled slowly. A test. The nebula tests our intentions. Are we worthy of understanding without desire to exploit? Yes, Elara said firmly. And we will prove it. We take knowledge, not power. Memory, not control. Every story we witness, every whisper we hear, is for the benefit of those who may still exist, and for ourselves. The holograms shifted once more, transforming from chaotic figures of fear into patterns of glowing light. A map of the nebula appeared, guiding them deeper, showing paths where the next civilizations waited, some vanished, some hiding, all whispering their final secrets. Kale studied the projection. The nebula is not just a repository of memory. It's a guardian. Some secrets are meant to teach, some to warn, and some to be left alone entirely. Elara nodded, determination etched on her face. Then we move forward carefully. Every step must honor the lives and lessons left behind. The nebula will test us further, and we must pass, not for glory, but for understanding. Outside, the nebula shimmered with countless whispers, each one carrying echoes of civilizations long gone. The next world awaited, and with it, the next secret, the next trial, and the next story desperate to be remembered. The Aurora's veil drifted into a dense section of the nebula where the colors shifted between deep crimson and pale silver. The air, or rather, the nebula's currents, was thick with emotion, almost tangible. Every sensor read fluctuations, but nothing concrete. It was as if the space itself was alive with decision and consequence. Kale frowned at the readings. This area, it's different. The civilizations here left echoes of choice, not just memory. Their final moments are replaying, showing decisions, regrets, and sacrifices. It's personal, intense. Taro's voice was tight. You mean we're seeing their final choices? Like reliving them? Kale nodded. Yes. And it's not just observation. The nebula is testing our empathy. How we respond to the choices of others, even when we can't change them, defines whether we are worthy of their wisdom. Elara's eyes scanned the glowing mist. Then we must observe carefully. Learn without judgment, feel without interference. This is about understanding, not changing the past. The ship approached a massive structure, half destroyed, half floating like a monument to despair. Holographic images flickered to life. Families torn apart, leaders debating impossible choices, communities deciding whom to save as disaster struck. The voices of the lost civilization filled the ship, not in words, but in emotion. Fear, hope, love, betrayal, and sorrow all entwined. Kale placed a hand on the neural interface. They made impossible choices. Every option carried suffering. And the nebula, it wants us to see that morality is never simple. That even wisdom cannot prevent loss. A projection solidified, showing a leader choosing between saving her people or protecting the knowledge of her civilization. The decision tore her apart, but she chose to preserve the knowledge, knowing her people would be lost. Taro's jaw tightened. Would we make the same choice? Elara's voice was soft but firm. We hope not to face such extremes. But we must understand the weight of it. That is what the nebula demands, recognition of sacrifice, and respect for choices, even when we disagree. Suddenly, the nebula pulsed around them, sending waves of memory crashing against their minds. Kale gasped. It's asking what we would choose. It wants to know if our own values align with those who came before. Elara closed her eyes. We answer with integrity. We act with respect. We carry these stories forward without altering them for gain. That is our choice. The pulse subsided. The red and silver currents softened into gentle violet and gold. The projections shifted, showing the leader's choice solidifying into a lasting message. Some sacrifices are unavoidable. Some lives will be lost. But honor the choices of the past, and you may yet shape a future that learns from them. Kale's hands shook slightly. The nebula, it lets us pass. But only because we understood, not interfered. We are witnesses, not players. That distinction is what keeps the memory alive. Taro exhaled, relief mingled with awe. Every civilization here, they left lessons. Painful, beautiful, tragic, but lessons nonetheless. Elara nodded. And it is our duty to remember them. To carry their whispers across the stars. The Infinite Nebula is a library of both triumph and failure, and only those who truly listen may gain its guidance. As the Aurora's veil moved onward, the nebula ahead shimmered with yet more secrets, some filled with hope, others with warning, but all demanding respect, attention, and care. The journey was far from over, and the crew knew the deeper they ventured, the more profound the stories would become. The Aurora's veil entered a region of the nebula where the colors deepened into a swirl of black, silver, and violet, giving the feeling of moving through a living void. The air, or the nebula's equivalent, was thick with tension. Every system on board the ship registered faint energy readings, yet nothing physical existed. Elara, this sector is ominous, Taro said, his voice tight. Something here doesn't want to be found. Kale's hands flew over the neural interface. These are remnants of a civilization that pursued knowledge at all costs. They were brilliant, but their obsession became their undoing. Their last whispers, they are not just memories, they are warnings and temptations. Elara frowned. Warnings and temptations. Kale nodded grimly. They left behind forbidden knowledge, fragments of technologies and ideas so advanced, so dangerous, that even in the nebula, they linger with a will of their own. They will try to lure anyone who seeks to exploit it. The holographic projections shimmered to life outside the ship. Massive towers floated in the mist, their surfaces etched with symbols that seemed to shift and move. Within the haze, faint figures flickered, scientists, scholars, and citizens caught mid-action, their expressions twisted in obsession, fear, and greed. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. A pulse of dark energy surged through the nebula, washing over the crew. The projections became tangible, solid for a brief instant, like ghosts reaching out to touch them. Taro shouted, "Shields are dropping." "What is this?" Kale's voice trembled. "It's testing us. The nebula is giving form to the civilization's obsession. It wants to see if we'll succumb to curiosity or greed." Elara gritted her teeth. "We hold the course. We observe, but we do not take. We remember, but we do not interfere. Focus on recording the history, nothing more." The projections surged closer, shadows of past brilliance and madness. Whispered promises of power, insight, and immortality echoed through the cabin, tempting the crew to touch what should not be touched. Kale's hands shook as he translated the whispers. "Take our knowledge, shape the stars, become as we intended." Taro's fingers hovered over the controls. "It's inviting us. But at what cost?" Elara's voice was steady. "At the cost of everything. We do not take.
We do not play their game.
Record, learn, respect. As if in response, the dark pulses softened, the projections dissipating into shimmering silver light. The nebula seemed to breathe, acknowledging their restraint. A final message appeared, etched into the crystalline structures. Those who wield knowledge without wisdom perish. Those who observe without desire endure. You have proven worthy of our story. Carry it forward. Kale exhaled, relief mixing with awe. The nebula tests both heart and mind. We survived because we understood the cost of temptation.
Elara looked out into the swirling mist.
Every civilization here leaves a lesson, a warning, and a memory. Some are bright, some tragic, some dangerous, but all are sacred. We are guardians of these whispers now.
Taro shook his head in wonder.
The Infinite Nebula, it's not just a repository of the dead. It's a living testament, a guide, and a judge. Every secret we witness shapes who we are and who we will become. The ship continued its journey, deeper into the nebula, toward realms of memory and warning that had never been touched by human eyes. Somewhere ahead, the final secrets waited, carrying the weight of entire civilizations, and perhaps the last whisper, the one that would test not only their skill and courage, but their very humanity. The Aurora's veil glided into the deepest region of the Infinite Nebula. Here, the colors shifted in waves of violet, gold, and ethereal white, forming patterns that seemed alive, pulsing, breathing, and almost speaking. The nebula was no longer just a library. It felt like a consciousness, vast and ancient, observing them. Elara, all systems are reading anomalies, Taro said, voice tense. This is beyond anything we've seen. The energy here, it's like the nebula itself is a mind. Kale's hands trembled over the neural interface.
This is the core, the heart of the nebula.
All civilizations converge here. Every memory, every whisper, every choice and warning, it culminates in this place. And it is waiting for us. Elara nodded, a mix of awe and resolve in her gaze.
Then we proceed with care. We listen. We witness. We do not take.
The nebula has guided us to this point, and we must honor it. As the ship approached the central region, a vast structure appeared, a luminous monolith of shimmering energy, towering higher than any crystal city they had seen. Projections of countless civilizations flickered across its surface, scholars, families, leaders, artists, warriors, all frozen in moments of triumph and despair. The nebula hummed with a resonance that vibrated through the ship and their very minds. Kale reached out to the interface.
It's speaking.
Not in words, but in pure understanding. Every civilization here left a piece of themselves, trusting that someone would carry their story. This monolith, it's the sum of all their wisdom, and all their regrets. Suddenly, the nebula pulsed, and the crew felt themselves enveloped in a wave of emotion, thought, and memory. They saw entire histories unfold in seconds, the rise and fall of empires, the brilliance of art and science, the pain of betrayal, and the beauty of fleeting life. Every civilization had whispered a lesson into the nebula, about compassion, curiosity, humility, and the dangers of hubris.
Taro's voice was barely audible.
It's overwhelming. All of it, the joy, the sorrow, the knowledge, it's more than we can process. Elara placed a hand on the console, closing her eyes.
We do not need to process it all. We need to remember, to respect,
to carry it forward without altering it. The monolith's glow intensified, and a final whisper emerged, not from one civilization, but from the nebula itself. You have listened, you have understood, you have respected. The Infinite Nebula holds the memory of the past so that the future may learn. Carry these whispers, and let them guide those who come after you. Do not forget what we were, what we became, and what we lost. Honor us, and you honor life itself. Kale exhaled, overwhelmed but grateful.
The nebula, it trusted us.
We have become part of its legacy. Elara nodded, her gaze steady.
Our journey doesn't end here.
We leave this place not as conquerors, not as explorers seeking glory, but as witnesses and guardians of memory. The civilizations may be gone, but their whispers endure, and so will we, as keepers of their stories. The Aurora's veil turned, leaving the heart of the nebula behind, but carrying its essence within. The ship sailed outward, the nebula's colors fading into the distance, yet the lessons, warnings, and beauty of countless forgotten civilizations would live on in the hearts and minds of those who had dared to listen. Somewhere, in the silent expanse beyond the nebula, other travelers might one day hear these whispers. And the Infinite Nebula would wait, patient and eternal, ready to share its secrets again.